Have you ever had an argument with someone and thought you were absolutely right, only to walk away and ask yourself, wait a minute, was I the asshole? Well, that's where Reddit comes in. So join me each day as we read through the top Am I the Asshole post and ask the question, was this person indeed the asshole or not? As always, leave your opinion in the comments below and let me know if you agree or disagree with my take on it. Let's get started. Okay, so what is one of the hot stories on Reddit today for Am I the Asshole? Am I the asshole for yelling at my nephews until they cried and had to leave? Okay, and then I see the next sentence here. My son recently died, so I do not know how to respond so far. The initial the initial headline has me laughing, but then that next line, I have not moved his stuff other than keeping it clean. I usually leave the door to his room closed. I pick up and babysit my two nephews for around an hour on weekdays since their mom, my sister in law, gets off work too late to pick them up. They are 11 and 13. Usually they are well behaved and do their own thing or even sometimes help me with chores. Okay, that's sweet. On Friday, I was cooking a very pungent soup, so I aired the whole house out by opening all the windows and doors. I should have left my son's room closed in hindsight, but I think I opened it out of habit. When their mom went to pick up her kids, I went to get them and saw them messing around with my son's guitar. The older one was messing with the string screws, while the younger one was plucking at the strings. Okay, 11, 13, exploring, curious. That's what kids do. I did it myself as a kid. I admittedly freaked out a lot and raised my voice at them. You mean you shouted? Most likely shouted. Freaking out and raising your voice, you're trying to use gentle language here. But let's be honest, freaking out and raising your voice, they don't go together. When you freak out, you shout or scream. So I admittedly freaked out and I raised my voice at them, which I have never done. I said, "What are you doing? Drop that right now. What are you even doing in his room? Get out. Never come in this room again." At that point, they started crying. I pulled the guitar away and their mother came in. She tried to mediate the situation and console them, but I told them all to get out of my house and they left. The guitar was thankfully okay and not scratched. Okay, you're emotional. Your son recently died. Can't hold that against you. That's a shitty hand to be dealt in life. No one should outlive their children. Um, so I can't really call you an asshole for freaking out at that point. But at the same time, can you handle the situation better when there are kids involved? I might lean towards, yeah, you can handle it a bit better. I mean, 11, 13, they're not going to be very thoughtful. They're not going to think that much about your emotions and how they might be a bit raw at this time for you. So they're not doing anything out of malice. They're just being a bit thoughtless, perhaps, as kids will be. So uh, let's read on. Their mom called me later to talk and apologize on their behalf. Okay. I like their mother. She's being very reasonable, but told me that she thinks that we should all have a sit down and apologize to each other. She told me that I really scared her boys and that although she thinks what I did was understandable, I overreacted in front of them. She told me that at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything harmful and that they deserve an apology from me too. Okay, yeah. So far, I gotta say, I mean, look, I don't think anyone's terrible here. The other mother, she seems very reasonable and wants to take responsibility for her kids and have a calm conversation with everyone. I love that. So far, okay. I told her I do think that I overreacted, but I wasn't sorry because they could have broke my son's guitar. She told me that it's extremely cruel to ever raise your voice at children and that I should be the bigger person. Was I the asshole for doing that? Okay, I'm going to disagree with your sister-in-law on this one in terms of never raising your voice at kids. I do disagree with that. I think there's a time and place for most things in terms of discipline. I think in general with kids, you do want to have calm conversations and you want to explain logic and reason so that they can learn and grow. But at the same time, there are kids who they don't respond to that. So you have to move on to punishing them with maybe taking away something they like or grounding them. And then there are kids who don't respond to that. As a kid, I was spanked. And I do believe that spanking is sometimes necessary for some children, just like I do believe that it is sometimes necessary in certain situations to raise your voice to show the degree of anger of which you have. I think they are all tools within a toolbox. You shouldn't jump to those immediately, but I do believe that they are, or that they should still be on the table. So, in that regards, I'm going to have to disagree with your sister. But at the same time, I can understand her point of view. There is a current school of thought where people should never yell or spank their kids. I understand that point of view. As a teacher, I've heard it before, but as a teacher, I can also say that there are some kids who would benefit from a bit of spanking and yelling here and there. But again, it depends on the kid, it depends on the situation. My opinion. She told me that it's extremely cruel to ever raise your voice and that I should be the bigger person. In this situation, should you apologize? Yes. I would say, I don't think you're an asshole, okay? I think that's going too far in this situation. Should you apologize, though? Yeah. Because at the same time, you're teaching the kids that it's okay to raise your voice and scream and shout when you're emotional, which is a bad message to teach. Now, I get that that might sound ironic just because I was just saying that you can do that sometimes in very certain circumstances, but you have to follow that up with an explanation and an apology. Like, I'm sorry I got angry and shouted, but let me explain why. So, again, going back to it being a tool set, in certain situations, I could imagine, what are you doing? Ah! Just to kind of get the kids' attention, get them to be, and then later going back and saying, look, sorry I raised my voice and I was angry, but let me explain the situation. So I do believe that you should still apologize, you know, because you don't want to teach them the message that it's okay to do that whenever. Raising your voice has to have a reason behind it. It has to have a logic that you can explain behind it. It has to be done for impact, I believe. And that's the most appropriate way to use that tool. So let's see what other people are saying. Am I the lonely island here? Nah, you're all grieving. You lost your son, my condolences, and they lost their cousin. They're just kids. Your sister-in-law is keeping a level head. She gave you an olive branch. Being a kid is difficult. Uh, and it would be courteous. Yeah, it would be courteous if you apologized to and explained why you reacted that way. Um, I made the nah verdict. I wrote this as a response to a specific comment, but I will put it here. The original poster lost her child. She's grief-stricken and will grieve for the rest of her life. Yes, the loss is fresh. She won't watch him grow up. Coping mechanism. Yeah, I get it. It's a coping mechanism, and it's not malicious. I get it. But again, they're kids, and you want them to grow up with a healthy viewpoint on when to be emotional and how to direct emotions. You're raw, you're angry, it's a difficult situation. You raised your voice, you shouted. Not raised your voice, let's be honest, you probably shouted. And in that situation, it's understandable. But while it certainly will teach them to not do that again, which, again, the benefit of shouting, you need to temper that with letting them know that you're sorry you lost your temper at them and shouted at them, and then explain why. Because then they'll learn the lesson of, okay, I shouldn't do that. And they'll also learn the lesson of, okay, we all lose control of our emotions sometimes, but that's not really a good excuse. We have to be considerate of when we lose control of our emotions. So you're giving them, you'd give your nephews two good lessons here by apologizing. So yeah, what do you guys think? Leave your answers in the comment. Am I the asshole? Am I misunderstood? Do you agree or disagree with my assessment? Leave your response. Talk to you guys next time. Have a great day.